Good morning, good evening, good night. I actually bid you good morning, good evening, good night. Mike Martins here with the Mike Martins channel. Let me just change this little header up here for you guys. We are actually discussing small business collapse. There we go. Small business collapse in Canada. It's actually a big deal. Our biggest trading partner is the United States of America, and if we start to fall, America starts feeling just a little bit of somewhat restraint, especially being one of their biggest trading partners. And what is going on? Well, there's lots going on. So let's start kicking this off. This is from Spencer Fernando. He kind of goes on his own as a rogue journalist and kind of looks into numbers and actually makes sense of what's happening around. So here it is. Insolvencies in Canada surge, business bankruptcies rise for the first time since 2001. So that is like 19, going into 19 years ago. So this is kind of a big deal because I still remember in 2001 when interest rates started to spike upwards, and that's how we got some correction and then started lowering rates as up until 2007, 2008, when we saw a correction, a full correction, well, a partial correction in the market. And then we started seeing things take right off again. Once we historically lowered rates to, never in human history have we ever lowered rates that low. And now in 2019, last quarter of 2019, going into 2020, we've created Frankenstein's monster. We've created this monster and we have no idea how to fix it. So here it is. Insolvencies in Canada surge, business bankruptcies rise for the first time since 2001. It's interesting how a bunch of bad economic news has emerged only after the federal election. Remember, guys, the federal election in Canada, I had some friends down in Australia following it, some friends in the States following it, and some friends in the UK following it. Why? Because it's very important. Because Canada is on the same chopping block as Australia and New Zealand and the UK. Bad representation, bad government expenditures. Oh, our federal spending will balance themselves out. That's the answer our federal government gives us, is that the books will balance themselves out. I'm kind of happy he actually mentioned this. After the federal election, the Liberals and establishment press kept pushing the narrative of a strong economy, yet the evidence for a long time has been going in exactly the opposite direction. Now, there is more. Insolvencies in Canada have surged by a whopping 8.4% in the past year alone, on track for the largest increase on a decade. Even worse, business bankruptcies are set to increase for the first time since 2001. Now, I'm going to tell you guys why I'm bringing this story up and why it's so relevant and so important. And it's happening all over every English-speaking country. It's private sector. Private sector is so important. And when the private sector, isn't funding the public sector, we're screwed. And a lot of these private sector / small businesses are the ones that are floating the boat, if you want to say it that way. Unless Canada starts turning on the steam engines stronger and printing off more money to offset, and then devaluing everyone's currency and savings and putting people in more of a financial risk and lowering interest rates even further. So yeah, it's just an absolute broken record is what it is. It's a broken record that we've seen many times, and it's not going to fix itself unless we push the reset button. Unfortunately, we haven't left our housing markets, our stock markets on autopilot. If they did, I would be talking about this right now, and we would have been through our second correction by now. As noted by Andre Boldock of the Canadian Association of Insolvencies and Restructuring Professionals, a weak economy and rising cost of living is largely to blame. Yeah, the rising cost of living is what's crippling a lot of middle class. People are struggling to survive. Insolvencies have risen amid the slowing economy and lagging effects of higher interest rates that made it more difficult for borrowers to keep up with payments. There is a strong correlation between interest rates and changes and consumer filings, but we see 2 to 3 year lag between increases and a growth of number insolvencies, stated by Andre Boldock, an association board member. Sustained increases in living costs and debt servicing costs have created an environment in which more people are struggling to stick to their repayment terms. So they're going to not stick to what they've already signed for originally or collateralized against or basically signed for on their signature, whether it's unsecured or secured. They're having a tough time meeting the basic payments that the schedule structure they were put in. A lot of it has to do with those Mickey Mouse insurances, like unemployment insurance on your loan and all that Mickey Mouse stuff that you have on there. That's a huge problem. A lot of people don't know, but they have a lot of stuff hidden in their loans. So take a look at some of your loans and make sure there's no Mickey Mousing in there. This is clearly a devastating combination of weakening economy, a rising cost of living, and increasing burden of debt, causing rising bankruptcies. Does any of that sound like a good economy to you? That's what we've been talking about here for, I don't know, the last 7 years, 8 years. Does any of this sound like a good economy to you? I'm going to say this 4 times until you understand this. This should have been a key point of argument during the federal election. No, they never talked about the fentanyl crisis. They never talked about the opioid crisis. They never talked about the middle class going homeless and eating out of food banks full time because they can't afford to meet their basic obligations. They're not talking about nothing. All they talk about is global warming. Global warming. You're a global warming denier. You're a global warming this. Mafangulo global warming. When everyone's starving and this, that. I think that's contributing more to a carbon footprint, if we even have one, a carbon footprint, than I don't know, man, the crap they were talking about in that election. The Liberals have been systematically lying to Canadians about the economy, trying to make it look good when it's really getting worse. Remember, oh, Canada's got all these, oh, Canada, yeah, 40,000 new jobs. Public sector jobs, more red tape, more bureaucracy. You want to get something done in your town? Good luck. It's all public sector you got to go through. All red tape. With Bill Monroe maintaining his post as finance minister and with Trudeau still imposing his damaged carbon tax and restrictions on the energy industry, we can expect a bad economic news to continue. This is by Spencer Fernando. Guys, check him out, please. News and commentary. He's got his own Facebook here, Twitter, and email too. And it's got a pile of shares. Guys, this is the true deal of what's happening. This is why YouTube is censoring certain channels, because they want to stop people from understanding on what's going on. The truth of the nature, or the truth of what is happening and why it's happening. Because for us to tackle these problems, we need to know what's wrong. Once we could find out what's wrong, then we could go ahead and fix the problem. But we're not asking the right questions. Everyone that asked the question during that election political debate didn't ask a single question that made any sense. What about the disappearing middle class? How are people going to get into the housing market when the average median house in some provinces started at $1 million? What do we do? No one's making that much money. You know, a house is supposed to be like four times your income. You know, your 4 to 5 times your annual income. That should be the house you buy, right? Good luck with that. Now it's got to be 36 times your annual income to buy something. I don't know, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm kind of frustrated with this. It was just very disappointing. My friends in Australia, we've covered the Australian elections too. Absolute disappointment there too. Same thing in New Zealand with the Kiwi Build project where they were going to build housing. Now, Western America, United States of America, all the way from Seattle, all the way down to the bottom of the United States, Tijuana border, they're starting to realize, hey, wait a minute. A lot of these homes and condos are sold to private corporations. You dig, it's a Chinese investor. Most likely, a majority of the money is being laundered in. Western United States, all of Canada, all of, pretty much most of Australia and New Zealand and the UK have been pretty much damaged by foreign investing and money laundering that's been happening illegally. And now the bank in Australia right now, there's a big president's guy there from Westpac stepping down. I'll be covering that later in another story. But yeah, stepping down. Why? 18 million charges of like money laundering, fraud, tampering. 18 million incidences were caught. 18 million. You can't even count to 18 million in your life. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Mike Martin's channel. Guys, don't forget, YouTube's coming to an end. I'm on Bit right here. BitShooters or BitTubers. I'm also on Brighton. And I'm also on BitChute. Come on, be part of the action. Join us for Mike in the Night for call-ins and trends in the housing market on Wednesday nights. Thanks for joining me. God bless, and thanks for watching.